This is what Judy's Magic Cast-On looks like once it's been cast on. Has a smooth surface and a pearl surface, which means that's the knit surface. This doesn't just look like pearl, it is pearl. And if you think it must be terribly complicated to make this, it really isn't. I'm going to show you how. So here I have two circular needles, top one, bottom one. I'm going to take the tail yarn and put it just on top of the top needle. Now I need a long tail, so I'm going to pull it. Notice that the bottom needle does not have anything yet. So the yellow is my tail yarn, darker color is my ball yarn. And take my left hand and grab the tail yarn and bring it underneath the ball yarn. See how it goes underneath and makes that cross? I'm going to lay the tail yarn on top of my index finger, the ball yarn on top of my thumb. I grabbed the remaining longer parts down below to add tension. You must have tension. Now we have a stitch on the top needle, but we don't have anything on the bottom needle yet, so let's put one on. The bottom needle is always going to be loaded with the index finger and its yarn. Now it's a pretty natural move. Look at this. We need a stitch going over there. Well, let's put one on. Notice that I went down between the needles, didn't I? There we've got two nice stitches. Now the thumb is going to load the top needle with its yarn. It always works from beneath. So watch it. It'll bring its yarn up between the needles, and then it wants to get its yarn on the needle, so that's what it does. It just pulls it right over the top. Now index finger's turn. It's going to load the bottom needle and it's just going to take it right on down in between. Now the thumb, starting from beneath, is going to come up between the needles and load its needle like that. Thumb, working from beneath, is going to come up between the needles, cover its needle with yarn, and down it goes. Notice that the index finger always ends up ending between the needles. The thumb starts between the needles. And they both cover their needle with yarn. Thumb comes up between the needles, covers its needle. Index finger covers its needle and ends between the needles. Thumb comes up between the needles and covers its needle. Index finger covers its needle and goes down between. Put this in your own words. I find it always helps for someone to look at what I'm doing and then begin to translate it into their own sort of understanding and language. So once again, index finger is covering its needle with yarn and going down between the needles. And the thumb is coming up between the needles and covering its needle. And you just keep going until you have enough, and then you end on the bottom because you started on the top. That way you have the same number. Now, there's my tail, because the bottom needle, remember, is being loaded with the index finger's tail yarn. And that's awfully loose. We're going to lose it unless we do something like this. Just going to tie the tail around the ball yarn. Simplest knot, the kind of knot, the first knot a child ever learns. So there we are. We've done it. Now to begin, we're going to need to rotate like so, because that's just the position we knit in, isn't it? This way, I pulled out the bottom needle, so now I can start knitting that way. Let's say I want to have the purl side facing me. In that case, I would turn it over so the purl side's facing me. Not rocket science. And there we are.